here. But first off, just a couple things. Appreciate all the feedback we've been getting on the videos. We do take all your feedback into consideration. Obviously, we try to keep track of all the comments and everything and questions that are being asked. And then we filter those through in our future content, whether we're making a video, a podcast, instructional information carousels, whatever we can do to help everybody. That's what we're doing. We're trying to do that. If you haven't grabbed the 6-step starter guide yet, go ahead down to the description on this live video or any video, or to the link in the bio on the channel, and you'll be able to grab that 6-step starter guide and use that to your advantage with you and your dog. Okay. But that should help you get to where you need to be at. Obviously, the foundation to everything training wise is going to be your engagement, your relationship. So if you have a reactive dog, if you have a puppy, if you have an older dog, if you're rescuing a dog, before you worry about obedience, before you worry about, going on to distraction training or socialization or anything like that, make sure that you guys are going and focusing on your engagement and your eye contact first. All right. So welcome, Joyful Canine Services. Good to see you. I know I haven't gone live too often, but I'm trying to get better about going live. So let me know if you have any questions or any stories to share, because obviously you're involved in dog training as well. And so it's always good to get stories from other trainers, things that you're finding useful with what you're doing, right? If you guys are getting into the chat, just drop your comments into the chat. I'm trying to keep an eye on that as we go through this. I haven't been live in a while, so I'm rusty on keeping tabs on the whole dashboard here as we're going through this. But if you did get a chance to grab my book on Amazon, let me know what you think about that. Got a lot of good reviews and feedback on that book. Hopefully that helped a lot of people, right? Get from a leash pulling dog to a dog that is walking properly on the leash, walking with a loose leash, and becoming well-behaved overall. So with that being said, let's see here. We got a 3-month-old Doberman puppy climbing on our older Beagle dog, bites his back. How do I stop it? Please advise. 3-month-old Doberman, so still pretty young. And then the older Beagle. All right. So what's happening here is, I'm assuming, I don't have all the context, but your Doberman could be trying to, obviously I'm a Doberman guy. You see my logo. We got the Doberman on there. My Doberman Bane, he's over on the couch right now. He's 11, so he's older, right? So you got a long way to go before you hit that older age. But, what's probably happening is the younger Doberman wants to play, maybe has a little bit of dominance. That's why he's jumping on the back, biting him, these kind of things. So what I do in this case is, number one, remember that whatever your dog is practicing, they're going to continue to do, right? And real quick, as I'm talking, if there's any issues with audio, I try to get my mic set up right, but if there's any audio issues, please drop it in the comments so I can work on that, okay? But I always remember, what your dog is practicing is what they're going to continue to do. So if my Doberman is jumping on the Beagle, biting the Beagle, these kind of things, I'm going to try and prevent that from happening. So if I'm at the point in my training where my Doberman is off-leash trained, even in the house, right? Off-leash trained, I have the e-collar in place. Whenever you're doing your e-collar, make sure that you are, thanks for letting me know the audio is good. Whenever you're doing your e-collar, make sure you're following our e-collar tutorial or working with an expert dog trainer to make sure that you're creating the proper association and the proper communication with the e-collar. But if I have that off-leash training done, and, I've done all the prerequisites for that e-collar work, and my Doberman is going after the Beagle, like what you're saying, I'm going to say no. I'm going to give a correction on the e-collar. I've actually got my Doberman's e-collar right here, Dogtra Pro, right? That's the Pro series that we're using right now. We are making a video on that so you guys can be familiarized with the new e-collar. But correction on the e-collar, if he stops, we're good to go, right? He can keep hanging out in the house. He can keep doing his thing, he or she. Sorry, I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl. But he or she keep doing their thing, walking around the house. If they try to go after the Beagle again, I turn up the level. So right here, right, I'm just going to dial up the level. Oh, that's super bright. No, bump on the e-collar, right? The Doberman stops. Good. Let them keep doing their thing. If they're having a really hard time with impulse control, self-control, continuing to go after the Beagle, then in that case, I'm going to send them to a place, right? Which the place work is going to be a prerequisite to the e-collar training. All right. But if I haven't achieved that level of training yet, if I'm not off leash trained and my Doberman is doing this or whatever puppy it is, I'm going to go get a leash, put a leash on them, and walk them away from the beagle and not allow them to practice that behavior on the beagle. Now I'm going to have to keep doing that until I do complete my e-collar training. That way, I'm able to actually correct the behavior. I need to make sure I get an effective correction in long term so that behavior stops. I hope that helps. Yes, Joyful Canine, you can ask any question about anything that you need. If you need business help with whatever you're doing, if you need some other kind of dog help or have a question, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Real quick, I'm going to go here to Brittany. Is it possible for a dog to have ADHD? I've never had a problem with training before, but my staffy has a hard time concentrating and hates training. He's 15 months. Yeah, let me get to that real quick. Catherine had a follow-up question. Can I start e-collar training now? You can start it now, but you must achieve prerequisite training, which is going to be your engagement, your eye contact, your obedience, all these things. Okay, so go to the e-collar tutorial on the channel. It's e-collar beginner guide on our channel. You can just search it, Canine Revolution e-collar beginner guide. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do before you do your e-collar training. And then I'm going to show you how to do your e-collar training. Okay. Hope that helps. Back to Brittany, possible for a dog to have ADHD. I never had a problem with training before. My staffy has a hard time concentrating and hates training. He's 15 months. So, it is possible, dogs can have a lot of the same, I don't know the exact terminology, but the same behavioral issues that humans, and I don't even call it a behavioral issue. It's just a trait. They can have the same traits that humans have, like ADHD. I think I have ADHD. That's why I'm like constantly, working and constantly thinking about how can I do things better? How can I get more information out there to people? These kind of things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, obviously, but we do need your dog to understand impulse control. We do need your dog to understand self-control. Okay. So is it possible for a dog to have ADHD? Yes, it is. Never had a problem training before. My staff has a hard time concentrating, hates training. He's 15 months. So before I start thinking, hey, this is an ADHD thing, whatever, first I'm going to focus on really honing in that dog's understanding of, how training is going to go and, basically how structure is. And one of my cats is jumping on my lap right now. So I apologize. So first thing for you, you're going to be doing engagement eye contact work. I'm not sure if you've done that yet already. You can let me know in the comments if you have. Sorry about the cattail. But engagement eye contact training. If your dog can't focus on that, then we're going to start troubleshooting steps to figure out how can we get our dog to focus on this in particular. So the first thing I look at is hand feeding meals, right? And to be honest, me and my family, we just adopted a 8-year-old miniature pinscher. And he has some attention problems, right? He doesn't want to always pay attention. He has some anxiety, these kind of things that we're working through. So I'm doing the same thing, right? So I'm hand feeding his meals. He's eating raw food. So yes, I have the raw food in my hand. I put it in the little pieces of raw food in my hand, and I'm doing my training sessions with his meals, right? So that's the first thing I recommend. And the reason why I recommend that first is because a lot of times if we're feeding dogs in their bowls, they're just not making an association of us to learning or us to doing training stuff, right? But if we start feeding them through our hands and we focus on eye contact, we focus on engagement, then in that case, a lot of times the dog starts picking up on it a lot quicker, and then you don't have to take other actions once you kind of get that going. So do refer to my engagement and eye contact videos to understand that process. When we're doing that, the dog is going to be on a leash. And the reason why the dog's going to be on a leash is because we don't want the dog to blow us off. So even if you're doing this in your house, you don't want your dog blowing you off, right? So which basically is just walking away from you, paying no attention to you. So you keep them on a leash. That way they're limited to what they're doing. You're waiting for them to want to pay attention to you. Once they glance at you, look at you for even a split second, you can start marking that. You can start rewarding that and then increase duration from there. Now, real quick, the second, again, apologize for the cattail. The second, you guys know cats. If you have a cat or if you've been around cats, They're way different training wise than dogs, obviously. But the second troubleshooting thing I'm going to be looking at or potentially thinking about is time management, right? So if my dog is just kind of between training sessions doing whatever they want to do, being out on the couch, hanging out in the house, we love our dogs doing that stuff, obviously. But if we're having a really hard time with them, paying attention, concentrating, hating training, these kind of things, we need to start framing in their mind that, hey, this is just part of life. It's part of what we're doing. So what I'm going to be doing is, instead of letting the dog kind of roam around and, do whatever it wants between training sessions, I'm going to implement kennel time between training sessions. And when I say kennel time, it's not timeout. It's just a management technique, right? We put the dog in their crate, in their kennel. They hang out in there. They come out. They do training. They do walking. They spend time with us. They go back to their kennel. You don't have to do that forever, but you do that for a week. You do it for 2 weeks, where you're really structuring the dog's time throughout the day. They really start to pay attention really well. So I hope that helps at least get you on the right track, on the right path. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. All right, next question is from Haywood Vape Reviews. Hello and thank you. How would I train a border collie, blue heeler, to not chase cars? This is something that comes up quite a bit with border collies, believe it or not. I've used the prong, slip, fur saver, no pull harness. Trainers retired 314 squad, 2 different trainers in I don't know how you say that, England. So I Hollywood Vape Reviews, always appreciate you letting us know your feedback on the videos. We do see your comments, so thank you for that. So with the dog that's chasing cars, this is probably a really good topic for me to do a video on because it's so prevalent, like a dedicated video. But the quick and easy, the car to the dog is essentially a prey, right? It's triggering the dog's prey drive. All right. So what you have to do is desensitize the dog's prey drive in relation to the car. And generally with border collies and heelers, because I've worked with both of them on the car thing before, the leash connected collars, prong collar, slip lead, fur saver, the harnesses, all these types of collars just are not going to achieve an effective enough correction to get that dog to stop chasing the car, especially if it's an older dog, especially if it's in practicing it. So the first thing I do is I try to get to an area where there's not really a lot of cars. I focus on my eye contact. I focus on my obedience. I want to make that really tight. Then I do my e-collar conditioning. Again, this is all away from cars. I want to try and be in a situation where there's not any cars going on. Once I complete all of that and I get my e-collar conditioning done, then the car is just a level of distraction training. So now I'm going to go to areas where there are potentially cars. Car goes by, my dog tries to chase it. I say no, correction on the e-collar, because we've done our e-collar training. We can easily adjust the level to make sure that it is effective for the dog that's in that specific situation. And once the dog stops the chasing behavior, we call them to us, come. And then as soon as they come, good, we're rewarding, right? And when we're rewarding, especially around a car, we want to make the dog's motivation for us more motivating than chasing the car. So with that being said, saying yes, letting the dog chase you for food, playing a tug game with your dog. Check out some of our videos on how to play with your dog. That would be the way that I go with that. Okay. Again, that's going to maybe adjust a little bit depending on your particular situation, but that's the baseline of how I'm going to handle that. And I do think that's a great topic for a future video. So I will sit down with Ben, the camera YouTube editor, and make sure that we keep tabs on doing a video for that. Okay. All right. Next question. Pray for me, Elizabeth. Course correcting when verbal marks like good and yes get mixed up. Okay. Yeah. I saw your comment on the community post. 7-month-old blue heeler. Love the dog training checklist. Glad you're liking that. You're in e-collar conditioning, not yet socialization and distraction work much. Perfect. You're doing a great job. So if you mix up your markers, if you're saying good and your dog's like not lunging, but like running at you, super excited, these kind of things, and you say yes and they're doing the same thing, that's usually when we've said good and we're moving at the same time. Because remember, the word yes means, you're doing the right thing. You're released from that. You can come to me for a reward. When I mark with good, that's the duration marker. So I'm going to say good, bring the reward to you. Your job is to keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. So with that being said, you know, all you need to do is continue your training where you're at, but go back to the fundamentals of what those words are. So if you say yes, right, if you mark yes for doing something right, you need to back up. You need to grab a piece of food out of your bait bag. You need to bring your hand down to your dog's shoulder level and allow them to come to your hand to grab that food out of it. Okay. If you say good, you need to say good, not move. Even if your dog moves because they're conditioned, just hold position, let them settle back into what they were doing, and then just deliver the reward right to them nice and calmly. So you just need to consciously think about those two actions depending on the marker that you're using. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if that helps you. Okay. But you can easily reverse that. It is going to take just a couple of sessions to kind of counter condition those words back to the way they're supposed to be conditioned. All right. Moving on to Joyful Canine. Catherine, are you okay? So she's responding to Catherine. Catherine, are you playing with your staffy a ton and using the play to incorporate with your obedience training? I would usually do an e-collar training 10 to 12 months in most cases. It can totally aid focus. So yeah, let me remember what Catherine was saying. Oh yeah, the staffy with ADHD potentially. Yeah, so you can obviously Joyful Canine Services. Joyful Canine, if you tell me what your actual name is, I'll call you by your name, but I'll also obviously say your business in here too. But, you know, good angle here with the play in your obedience training that can help a lot of times. But I like to think about it this way as well. There's like usually two ways that dogs are going to show their energy. One is what we call an active stressor. And when we say stress, it could just be arousal. It could be excitement. It doesn't have to be stress, right? We have an active stressor. We have a suppressive stressor. So an active stressor, whenever they're getting aroused or stressed, they're going to get more active. A suppressive stressor, when they're getting aroused or stressed or excited, they're going to get less active. They're going to potentially freeze up. So if I have a dog that's very active, I do want them to become, you know, more calm. So the play with the obedience training is a good thing to do sometimes, but I would focus mainly on building calmness in the dog. And so a lot of duration markers, good, just letting them hang out in position. So you want to be careful about not doing too much play with your obedience training. I would definitely incorporate it like what you're saying, but I would limit it maybe to once a day, for example, depending on how many sessions you're doing. And the rest of the sessions are focused on developing calmness. And e-collars for me, I'll do them as soon as the dog meets the prerequisites, usually like 4 to 5 months on general. Okay. The waiting is killing you, Joyful Canine. I hope I didn't miss your question. Let me know if I'm missing your question. I'm just trying to keep up with the comments here. All right. Catherine says, one more question. Can I put my Doberman puppy on prong collar at this young age for better control? Let me just remember how old your puppy is. 3-month-old. Definitely you can use the prong collar if you want to. You do need to focus on your engagement, your eye contact, and I would start off with your leash pressure training. If you get the 6-step checklist, you'll go through all of that. And the checklist is in the link in the live chat. It's in the link of the other videos. It's in the link in the bio. But your progression is going to be generally engagement, eye contact. You're going to be doing your verbal markers as part of that. And then after that, you're going to move into your leash pressure training. So you can use a prong collar. You can use a fur saver. I do use prong collars. It depends on the dog. Usually I don't need them, but there are, 5 or 10% of dogs that I do need to put a prong collar on them. No problem with that. We have a bunch of videos on prong collars, so you know how to do it the right way. And then as soon as we get them on the e-collar, we don't need the prong collar anymore. The only downside to a prong collar, there's basically 2 downsides. Number one, it can irritate the dog's neck a little bit just because it's like, moving on the neck, creating some skin irritation. So just be aware of that. And then number 2, prong collars, the way they're designed, sometimes they can come apart. So you always connect your prong collar to a secondary collar just in case it comes apart. But refer to the prong collar videos on the channel for more information and details on that. Joyful Canine Services. Are e-collars banned from where you're from? Yeah, so there are a lot of e-collar bans. If you have that situation, let me know. I'll try to give you alternate advice. But if you are in the position to be able to get an e-collar and train it properly, that's definitely the best way to go. You're welcome, Haywood Vape Reviews. You're welcome, Elizabeth. In England, e-collar is not banned yet. Yep. So you guys hopefully can fight against that, however you can do it. I hope I'm seeing all the comments. Let me know if I'm seemingly to not see your comment. You guys can drop it again. Like I said, I'm trying to get refreshed on how to use this live chat thing here. Elizabeth, your book on leash training was so helpful. The way it laid out training into steps was very helpful. Helped in other areas of your training. Any other book ideas? Hey, thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Yes, I do have I have other book ideas. I don't know what you guys think. One of the things I was thinking is dog training for kids. I have 2 kids. I did a video recently where they were helping me train a couple dogs that I was working with, and they like helping me out with dogs that they can. But I was thinking of like an illustrative type of book that shows kids things they can do at their house. And that's going to help their family too. Because a lot of families that I work with, they have kids different ages. And, you know, it would really help out the family and the parents in general if the kids were like better at training with their dogs. And it obviously helps out the dog too. So that's one idea. But as far as like just general dog training book, I was thinking of is e-collar, some kind of e-collar book to step through the e-collar process and the prerequisites in a book form. Because that seems to be the #1 tool that gets misused just because of misinformation. So I figured that might help people. I don't know if you have any thoughts of books that I should work on, but those are on my list to do at some point. All right, Joyful Canine Services is Jesse. Hey, Jesse. Love your content. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on punishment and punishment continuing after a behavior has stopped? Yeah, so I'm going to use all 4 quadrants of operant conditioning, which is I'm going to use a correction, right? In operant conditioning, technically, you have positive punishment, you have negative punishment. Positive punishment is technically like a leash correction or an e-collar push and release of the bump button on the e-collar or your nick button. And then negative, punishment is going to be withholding food from a dog, for example, withholding something that the dog wants. You also have negative reinforcement, even though, operant conditioning is kind of confusing with the terminology for people not familiar with it. Let me know in the comments if that would be beneficial to do a video on operant conditioning so you understand the science behind it. But negative reinforcement is technically, applying pressure to the dog as well. If you tighten a leash, even if you're walking down the street and the leash is tight, that's applying pressure to the dog's neck. When that pressure is relieved is going to be what the dog is getting reinforced for. But as with anything, punishment has to be used properly, right? A lot of people, when they say punishment, I'm sure you're aware of, Jesse, I'm sure you're aware of operant conditioning like I am. But there might be a lot of people listening or watching who are not familiar with operant conditioning like we are. And so I'm just going to say the layman's terms of punishment as correction, right? Most people, when you say punishment and dog training, they're thinking correction. And so, I am going to be using corrections in dog training, but I'm not going to be doing them the first day that the dog starts training. I'm not going to be doing them the second day the dog starts training in general. Now, if a dog's trying to attack me and bite me, which does happen, I am going to use the leash and protect myself and try not to get bit. Sometimes you get bit. This right here, I don't know if y'all can see that. That's a bite from a Cane Corso that I got probably 2 or 3 months ago, and it's scarred up pretty good. So, there are times you're going to get bit if you're a dog trainer, if you're working with dogs, but that's part of the job, right? But if that does happen, I am going to use that leash to try and protect myself and not let that dog just go to town. I'm not going to not correct it for trying to go to town on me. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, what I'm going to try and do is just manage the environment, detox the dog, build up a relationship with the dog, and then, start going through our training progression, our training process. And then once the dog understands the expectation, then I'll start teaching it corrections in a manner where, essentially when I'm starting, I'll just say no, give a little tug and release on the leash. Once the dog does what it's supposed to be doing, what its expectation is that I've taken all the time to teach it, then I'm going to reward it after the correction, because I don't want it to be, aversive to corrections. Corrections are just a communication method between me and the dog. So I think I might be rambling on that. The second part of your question, punishment continuing after behavior has stopped. Once the behavior has stopped, the correction needs to stop, right? The punishment needs to stop. You don't need to excessively punish a dog, right? Or excessively exert pressure on a dog, unless it's a very rare situation. There are rare situations with, dogs that are very aggressive or dogs that have a lot of drive in them that need kind of, sometimes I call it a come to Jesus moment where they understand that that behavior is not tolerated. But then again, it's not like, the punishment continuing just nonstop. It's very scientifically balanced with that particular dog's behavior. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry if I am rambling on here. Brittany says about e-collars about to be banned in Scotland. Get them before they get banned. Keep them low key, right? Okay. Haywood says, yeah, they're banned here. All right. So if e-collars are banned, Haywood, let me go back to your, okay. So you got the border collie chasing cars. You cannot use an e-collar, right? So then in that case, you're going to have to, So if you can't use an e-collar and your dog is going crazy chasing cars, right? You're going to have to, number one, threshold. We just released a video on this morning. So you're going to have to find a place where you can work on this with your dog at a distance to where your dog is not chasing the car. Find your threshold, make your eye contact stronger, make your dog's adherence to you stronger, make your dog's engagement with you stronger. This is going to take a long time, especially with the dog with the drive like your dog and, with the history of practicing chasing cars like your dog has. So find that threshold, enhance all of your training, make it way stronger at that threshold, then work to reduce your threshold. And you are going to have to use a pretty hefty pop on the leash, right? No, pop and release on the leash with a fur saver or a prong collar or a combination to really teach that dog, hey, do not chase a car. And you got to remember, for those listening who are like, that's terrible, don't do that. You got to remember, if a dog's chasing a car and then the dog goes too close to the car, gets hit by the car, the dog can die, be seriously injured. So I'm going to err on the side of making sure my dog has an effective understanding of you don't chase these things versus just allowing my dog to go up and get injured by a car. So that would be the way you're going to do that without an e-collar. It's going to take a long time, but you can do it. And then I would very cautiously ever let my dog off leash if I don't have an e-collar. Very cautiously. I'd probably err on the side of not letting them off leash. Instead, I'm just going to have a long line. So I hope that helps. Let me know what you guys think about that. Elizabeth says, kids training book is a great idea. My niece loves helping me. She calls it doing a dog show. Yep. The kids love it. E-collar is great as well. I appreciate that. So I think those two are going to be on my list for books that I'm working on. The next thing I'm working on is like an online course for reactive dogs, because we have a lot of people that have a reactive dog. Some reactive dogs tend to be aggressive. Some reactive dogs tend to just be frustrated, right? And sometimes when they're frustrated, they might grab the leash. They might bite the closest thing to them just because they don't understand how to deal with that specific situation. So that's my project that I'm working on right now, is an online video course with some PDFs to go along with it to help people in that situation. But once I'm done with that, I'm probably going to start working on the next book in a better manner. So hopefully that helps, as well as all the YouTube videos, right? Those videos that we're putting out in the podcast, trying to make information as accessible as possible in a way that is suitable for people. Not too much information, not too little information. Haywood says, thank you. That was more informative than 99% of the other trainers' advice. I'll do that. Yeah. So just, watch the video we released today on thresholds. Make sure you understand what a threshold is. And then once you understand threshold, really make your eye contact as strong as possible. And this is where you're going to have to kind of experiment with your dog. Because if your dog is very food motivated, you can use your yes and good markers. You can reward them for eye contact. The other thing you can do, let me know if I'm going too much on a tangent on this, but the other thing you can do for your eye contact, especially since you can't use an e-collar, is start teaching your dog a look command. So once they're volunteering eye contact and you're rewarding that and your dog's having a good time and they're showing you that they're going to pay more attention to you versus things going on around you, then I put a look command on it. So then I go out to the training area, I say look, right, or watch, whatever word you want to use. And then once they start looking at me, I'm going to say good, reward that. Yes, back up, let them come to me for food, change up my reward event so that, it's always exciting for them to be chasing me and playing with me with the food and all that. So that's one way to elevate your eye contact and elevate your dog's motivation to want to pay attention to you. Now, once you develop that look command, it's the same progression for teaching any obedience behavior. You teach them the behavior, right? The muscle memory for the behavior, which for the look command is going to be when they're just giving you eye contact like we normally do. Then when that muscle memory is very well patterned, then you're going to add the cue on top of the behavior. So when you go out to your training area, before you are, having them look at you or anything like that, you're going to say, look. Now that's going to initiate the eye contact session. You're rewarding them. If you say yes, right, they're released from command. They can come to you to get a reward. And then to reinitiate the eye contact, you're going to say, look again. And then your dog would look at you again. Good, right, reward, or yes, reward, however you're going to do it. Now that you've taught that cue, and again, this is going to take several sessions, several days, right, depending on how you and your dog work together and your dog picks up things and everything. But now that your dog knows that cue, now you're going to implement a correction when you say look, but they decide to look away. So if I say look, my dog has to be glued on me. It cannot look away until I say yes, until I say free, whatever word is your release word, right? So if I say look, they got to stay on me. So if they look away, no, tug and release on the leash. They look back, good, reward, right? Now you go through that. What this is going to do to help you is when that car is near, right? Or as you're working on your car threshold, that car goes by, your dog looks at the car, you tell them, look. If they don't look, no, tug and release on the leash. They look at you, good, reward, right? We do this with reactive dogs for anything they're reacting at, cars, other dogs, people, whatever, right? So you go through that process, right? Make sure your dog understands to look at you no matter what that distraction is. And as you progress this, if they get really, and you're reducing your threshold and they get really distracted by that car, you gotta give them a pretty good pop and release on that leash to make sure you get in their attention. That way they understand, hey, if I say look, don't look at the car. Don't look at the car. Don't look at the squirrel. Don't look at the other dog, right? And maybe a good way to progress that is before you start taking on the closer distances, the closer thresholds to cars, you find some other distraction that your dog is distracted by. It could be a toy, could be another dog, could be a person, whatever. And, you practice on that before you practice with the car, because the car is probably a very high level distraction for your dog. That's my assumption based on what you've said so far. With that being said, going back to Jessie, Joyful Canine Services, what she was talking about playing with your dog with obedience. I would highly recommend this with you and your dog. And there's a video that I did a very long time ago. I have to see if I can find it and post it in a comment somewhere or on the channel. But there's a video that I did a very long time ago with my Doberman when he was very young. And he was very reactive. He's reacting at people. He's reacting at dogs, all these kind of things. But a play session with him. Ball on a string was one of our favorite toys to do. We don't do it anymore. He's 11. His joints, I do my best to keep his joints in good shape. But I know if I work him really hard, it's going to take a toll on his joints. So all we do is moderate, low intensity exercise for his health, right? But if your dog is younger, able to do those kind of sessions, that would be a great session to do. And you would also incorporate remote rewarding into the play session where you have the ball on the string, you throw it, right? And just because you throw it doesn't mean your dog can go get it. And because you can't have an e-collar, your dog would be on a long line, not off leash, right? So see if you can find that video on the channel. I think it's just Doberman dog training or something. It's an older video, but check out that video. Let me know what you think, and go with that, right? So hopefully that gives you some other ideas. All right. Is it Jenny or Janine? Jenny, I have a huge question. It will leave, but we'll leave it after you're live because it's basically a paragraph on German Shepherds that never bothered cats before, but since a third dog came to stay, now they are more driven. Okay. Well, yeah, you can leave it after the live. I'll answer it the best I can. You can try to type it out here while I'm still here, and I'll answer it if I can. But basically, German Shepherd never bothered cats before. Since a third dog came to stay, now they are more prey driven. So something triggered the German Shepherd, obviously. Genie in a bottle got it. Obviously, something triggered the German Shepherd to start wanting to bother cats or chase cats or whatever it is. Some kind of prey drive initiation. So I'm going to handle that depending on what your training level is. I'm going to handle it just like any other situation. If you do something that crosses the line of you cross one of our rules, boundaries, expectations, and if we have cats, which I have cats, there's one sleeping right here behind the camera. But if you have cats, one of the rules of the house is you can't just chase the cat, right? You can't bother the cat if you're a dog, right? And if you're a cat, you can't bother the dog. So how are we going to communicate that to the animal, the nonverbal being, right? Well, for a dog, it's going to be teaching you the rules, boundaries, expectations. Once I teach you that, I'm going to teach you what a correction is, a communication. And then once I've taught that, then what I'm going to do is basically use the correction. If you're bothering a cat or chasing a cat, I'm just going to say no, give a tug on the leash, or no, bump on the e-collar. The dog gives the cat space. Then I'm going to say good and randomly reward them for making the right thing, doing a good decision. If my dog's walking around the house and doesn't bother the cat, walks by the cat, doesn't bother it, good, reward your dog randomly. Those two things, correcting the behavior that is, crossing the rule, boundary, expectation, rewarding the behavior that we want, those two things long term are going to help your dog to understand to leave the cats alone. Okay. They ended the cat's life when they came inside. It happened again. Scared to have. Okay. So your dog actually killed the cat. Is that what you're saying? They ended the cat's life when they came inside. It happened again. Scared to have cats around them now. Yeah. So if they actually, kill the cat, that's a very satisfying thing for a predator like a dog, right? So if that happens, and there's a cat around, you got to have a leash on your dog, depending on where you're located. You got to have an e-collar on your dog, and you got to pay attention, right? Until you can trust your dog. I get what you're saying, Jeannie. You got to trust your dog. You have to get to the point where you can trust your dog to be around the cat and not go after it to try and kill it or get triggered by it or anything like that. And that means you're probably going to have to go pretty effectively on your correction. When I say effectively, I mean you're going to have to turn up the level on your e-collar. You're going to have to pop and release pretty good on your leash. You need to make sure your eye contact is stronger, right? So focus on engagement, focus on eye contact training every day. Every day. If you're struggling with that, hand feed your dog's meals during eye contact and training session and engagement sessions to make that eye contact and engagement as strong as possible. The stronger your eye contact, the stronger your engagement. Honestly, the less correction you're going to have to do with the e-collar or the leash, because your dog will listen to you more, adhere to you more. That's what I find in what I'm working with. Okay. But glad that helps you out. If you have follow-on questions, let me know. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for leaving some questions. I got a couple minutes left, and then I got to roll out. We'll do this again for sure. Appreciate all the dialogue here, and appreciate you guys watching the videos and giving us feedback. Hopefully it's helping everybody. If you're not on our Instagram, you can hop over on our Instagram as well. We do try to give shorter. We do it on YouTube as well. But on Instagram, we try to give shorter content to help just give you that little bit of advice as you're going through your day. Also, we do some interesting content on, or not interesting, but entertaining content on Instagram. We do it on YouTube as well. All right. All right. Jesse says, yes to another live on the quadrants would be good. We can get a little nerdy. Yeah, I like getting nerdy. Deeper dive on the nuances of negative reinforcement, positive punishment. I think the two are often mixed up. Definitely think you're correct on that. I don't know. What do you think? Would a live be better on that, or like a podcast or a dedicated video? For us, the difference between like our dedicated YouTube videos and the podcast, The podcast gets no editing. It's just me talking. And the dedicated video gets editing. So they get overlays and words and stuff put on the video. I've thought about doing a dedicated video on operant conditioning before to talk about the 4 quadrants, how they affect your dog's training, how to think about them. But I didn't know if a lot of people would be interested in that sciencey subject. But maybe a live is a good idea to do on the quadrants. We could do a dedicated live session. That'd be cool. Or Jesse, if you want to do a podcast with me, we could do a podcast together and talk about it, and then we could post that. So reach out to me. I don't know if you're on our Instagram, reach out, DM me. We'll see if we can set that up and do that. All right, guys, a couple more minutes here that I'm going to roll out. A couple things coming up. It's still summertime, depending on where you're at around the world, but still summertime. So if you're out in the heat, be very careful. You got to make sure you're checking those asphalt temperatures. Pay attention to your dog's breathing. If they're panting, don't necessarily just let them gulp down a bunch of water, right? If they're panting, maybe sip water, maybe wait till they're done panting before you let them gulp water, just because of the potential for bloat, right? You don't want that to happen to your dog. Nobody wants it to happen to your dog. Just remember, bloat is when their stomach twists. And so they can do that with a bunch of water in their stomach. So after you're done outside, you come back inside, for example, or you're going to your car, let your dog's panting reduce before you let them have a bunch of water. And after they, eat a meal, let them have a resting period before you take them out on a walk or something like that. Okay. Catherine says dedicated live session. All right. Maybe that would be cool. Do a dedicated live session to talk, and then let you guys have feedback as we're talking about it. Yeah, you guys like the collabs? That'd be cool. With that being said, Titan Turf Lawn Maintenance, love the podcast. Any plans to have more guests on, even if it's just Chris? You're a Chris fan, huh? Chris loves Skittles. If you know Chris, he loves Skittles. So with that being said, yeah, we do have a podcast coming up. I was working on a guest list with Raw and Paw Company, still trying to hash them down. They had to reschedule. Raw and Paw Company is the people that we work with. They have raw dog food. They have canine super supplements, dog supplements. Their supplement line is the best. They just sent me a sample package of some of their dog treats, which I had to test them out. My old dog, he loves them. So I'm like, all right, they're good. I sent him a picture. And I'm like, Bain gave you the thumbs up approval for the treats. So we're trying to set up a podcast with them. Also, I do have all of the Canine Revolution trainers scheduled for another podcast. Danny, JC, Chris, we're going to be doing a roundtable podcast, but I haven't really thought of a topic yet. I just put it on their schedule because, they're very busy. So I can't always get them to lock down on a podcast. But what do you guys think I should talk to all the trainers about? Put that in the comments real quick before I hop off of here. So that's the collabs we have coming up. We also have Justin Rigney lined up for a guest podcast episode. Justin Rigney is a dog trainer. He's out in Tennessee. He trains all over the world. He used to be a police canine officer, now turned dog trainer. Very well versed in all aspects of dog training: sport dog, working dog, pet dog. So I'm really excited about that. Plus, he's jacked. We're going to be talking about exercise and fitness a little bit, not too much, but I do want to get his thoughts on some of his workouts and stuff that he's doing. So that's another guest we have coming up. And then I have my buddy John. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, Low Country area. John is in the South Carolina upstate. And whenever I made the transition from moving away from aversive dog training to balanced dog training, John was one of the guys who helped mentor me in making that switch and doing the right things as far as training goes. He was a really good sounding board. So I'm really grateful to him. But we've been trying to sit down. John is a very busy guy, but he is going to be on the podcast at some point. And he's a prior Air Force military working dog handler. Specialty is tracking. So at some point he'll be on the podcast, but I am working on some other collabs. I've been thinking a lot about, dog mobility, dog physical therapy. So I'm looking for someone to collab with on a episode about that. If you have any recommendations, let me know. I've also been trying to get a couple of veterinarians to talk about peptides in dogs with me. I had one lined up. They backed out. And I'm like, I'm just going to have to cover this myself. And so I've been doing all the research. I'm putting that together into a video. So, that's coming up as well. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I'm finding as I'm progressing, people say, your dog is so good. You're so lucky. While they have a misbehaving dog, but they say it's just the dog. Oh, well, I'm sure you see that. Yeah, I definitely see that as well. Sometimes I try to say something to them. Sometimes I'm like, this person they just don't understand what they have to do, Also, they don't know your journey from where you started to where you're at now. You know what I'm saying? Jesse says, maybe discuss with the trainers the recent Dylan Jones case he posted with the doodle rehab that was failed by 5 trainers of force-free training. I haven't seen that. Send that to me too, so I can look into that. That would be a good thing to discuss. Also, I was going to potentially talk about as like a news thing, the rescue that was out in California. They had like a bunch of dogs. I haven't seen the full article, but a bunch of dogs were found dead on their property. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was something I was going to potentially look into. Do you have any tips for training a blind dog? My dog has glaucoma, and her one existing eye will most likely go fully blind. Actually, yes, I have a playlist. It's an older playlist. You'll have to look on the channel. But I trained a dog, this must have been 7 or 8 years ago. It was a German Shepherd, had both eyes had to be removed, so it was completely blind. Eyes were sewn shut, had 0 eyes. And so I take you through the whole training process with that dog. There are some differences with the blind dog. Now, do understand and remember that dogs don't primarily rely on their eyesight, right? So their eyesight is not a huge deal, but obviously they tend to run into things and need help with things when they can't see. So check out that playlist and then leave a comment on that playlist. It's probably a good idea for me to redo a full training progression for a blind dog. But you need to make sounds. You need to have another communication method so that they can, understand what you're communicating without seeing you. You have to move yourself a little bit differently with a blind dog than you do with a dog that can see clearly. All right. Aaron's Canine Services says, same here, Air Force Kennel Master. Nice, dude. Appreciate your service. Jeannie says, I have a friend that talks a lot about peptides. Never heard him say it for dogs. I'm definitely going to share your channel with him. Yeah, so I've been doing a ton of research on peptides for dogs. Obviously, peptides are a big thing talked about in today's world. There's not a lot of good information about peptides for dogs out there, but I've been doing the research. You guys know how I am. When I start getting obsessed with a topic, I just go ham on the research. So I've been doing extensive research to try and give as much useful information without rambling on as possible. So that video is coming out relatively soon. Amy says, my dogs are 12 years old. We were failed by force-free trainers for all those 12 years. Wow. 12 years of force-free training. Golly, it's a long time. We finally found a no bullshit balanced trainer after a few months ago. Absolute godsend. That's awesome. Good to hear that. Elizabeth says, future ideas, checklist to measure success. Knowing checklist when to measure success, knowing when to step it up. That's a good idea. Want to keep the pup growing, learning, having fun. Awesome. Yeah. So always increase your criteria, right? Always increase your criteria for, your dog's behavior. So, it could be anything, you want to challenge yourself, right? But you got to make sure that you're adjusting your reward schedules, not making it too easy for your dog. But like one example of increasing criteria could be, working on a place in your house, and place is an automatic downstay on a pet cot. That's how we use it. You guys could do it however you want. But when I say place, once I've taught it to the dog's job is to go to the pet cot, lay down, and stay there, right? I don't have to say down. I don't have to say stay, right? When I say place, their job is to go, lay down, and stay there. So with that being said, how could I increase my criteria for that behavior? Well, once I've taught that behavior at 6 feet from the pet cot where the dog, when I say place, the dog will walk to the pet cot, lay down, stay there. Now I'm going to increase distance, right? I'm going to start saying place at 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. I'm going to go to different rooms of the house and make sure the dog knows how to navigate through the house to get to the place, right? So that's one example of increasing criteria for behavior. There's just so much you could do. It's so fun working with dogs, right? But love the thoughts, Elizabeth. Love the thoughts. Jesse says, holy shit, you need to go watch it. It's 4.5 hours. Holy cow, start to finish. Gia thinking Canine was their trainer, booked the dog's euthanasia date, death sentence denied is title. I'll have to check that out. I can't watch 4.5 hours of documentary. I'll have to get the cliff notes on it. But definitely something I need to look into for sure. Amy said, whenever we tried a new trainer as they got older, we were always asked, why did you wait till now? Fuck that. We did not wait. We were failed. I despise trainers that want to blame the owner when blah, blah, blah. Yep. So when the owner has asked for help multiple times, for sure. And that's something that is a problem with a lot of trainers is, why'd you wait till now? They're 12 years old, whatever. That's just a little bit of an ego problem on the trainer's perspective, right? Versus, okay, this is where we're at. What do we have to do to get to where you need to be, right? That's what the conversation should be. This is where we're at. We're 12 years into this. The dog's 12 years old or whatever. This is where we need to be. Not, why'd you wait till now? It's your fault, blah, 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 right? That's bullshit. That's ego talking. Walk away from that person, right? Go find somebody that's going to help you from where you're at right now to get to where you want to be, or at least make your dog the best dog possible, right? And your family have the best, experience with your dog as possible, right? That's what good trainers are going to do. They're not going to try and blame you. They will hold you accountable, right? So, for example, I had a session with the family yesterday. They're doing private lessons. I had done a lesson with them, several weeks ago. I gave them their homework. I went back yesterday. They did not do their homework. So I basically, and I wasn't telling them it was their fault. I just said, hey guys, remember, we have to be consistent. We have to do our daily sessions, do our daily walks. And they're like, you're right. We haven't been doing anything. So that's just a little bit of accountability for the owner that if they have a goal they want to achieve, you got to do the daily work, right? But I'm not telling them you suck, all that kind of stuff. So for sure. Haywood Vape says, I think the way you explain things and ideas is top shelf. A lot of other trainers aren't as articulate as you, and it shows best. But in the end, hopefully we all try at least. For sure, man, for sure. I try to get better at the way I talk every time. I know I slur my speech a little bit. I don't have the best grammar. I love it when people are just commenting on the videos. Oh, you said this word wrong. You said that word wrong. I'm like, that's just funny to me, right? Amy says, one thing that does make me proud, although my 12-year-old half-blind dog with dementia has a better recall, nice, than half the dogs we've come across, despite having only known recall for a few months. There you go. All right, guys. I love the dialogue here. Love talking to y'all. Thanks for the support. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being part of the revolution. If you guys have something that you need to speak with me one-on-one about, there is a booking link that we're putting into the videos now, where you can book a time with me to do like a 30-minute session. There is a cost to that, but that is a service that I'm trying to have more availability for. And right now it's kind of limited. But as the demand for that increases more than it is already, I will try to make more availability for that. But if you want to book a session with me, we could talk about your dog. We can specifically talk about what you need to work on versus like a generality. I'll have to get more information from you before the call via email. That way I can have a good background understanding before we meet up. But if that's something you want, just go to the link in the bio or the video or, the channel, and we can do that. And if you're another trainer and I can help you in any way, we can do a session to talk about business or training or whatever you want as well. Is there a way to send videos for you to react besides social media DMs? You can always email them. You can send them to info@caninerevolutiondogtraining.com. There's also an email in the bio or on the channel as well. You can email them. You can also DM them via social media. We are trying to get better about our React videos, our React series. We're trying to categorize them. So we might do a React video on videos that you send me, right? Videos that our community is sending. Or we might do a React, like a one-on-one React where I'm just reacting to one specific video. So let me know what you guys think about that and what you prefer. And I have to roll out of here. Got to go train some dogs. So I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy your training, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream and in the next video. Talk to you later.